Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back at it again to bring you everything you need to know about the Priory of Sacred Flame for Season 2 Mythic Plus. And if you're enjoying these guides, be sure to like and subscribe as it helps us hit that 100,000 goal before the end of the year. So, first boss is Captain Dailcry, and he's going to have the option for which of the lieutenants you want to fight with him. You will always have one lieutenant with the captain when you fight the boss. It's just a matter of who. My recommendation, the TLDR, is go into the beginning and you're going to want to kill the guard captain to summon the lieutenant, chainmail, and then you'll want to kill like the blacksmith on the right side as you're entering into the courtyard region, and then you are going to only have the captain and Tainer left over. The guard captain that you fight in the middle of the courtyard is going to do a big knockback and a big burst of damage with a slam onto the ground. He summons chainmail to his death location when he dies. It takes a bit of time for the lieutenant to walk over there, but chainmail is one that you would not want to fight with a boss fight because it does a bunch of bleed damage with its leap and does more AoE damage that is totally unavoidable. Fighting the captain himself has some casts that can amp up his allies, and that could be very detrimental when there's big AoE damage that you cannot avoid. So you want to fight that guard captain, and then like I said, you go up the stairs to your right and you fight the blacksmith, because the blacksmith is also going to summon one of the like caster priests that follows the captain around, and they are going to be casting a judgment onto the tank, which is going to make him take additional damage, and they're going to do a light bound like AoE that is totally unavoidable. It's just huge damage that can happen as keys scale up. So the argument for it is that you would want to leave Tainer with the boss, and Tainer spawns these like ember storms that you have to make sure you're dodging around, and there's some kicks with like fireball kicks, cinder blast kicks that would stun the tank if the cast goes off, but you can dispel it. And so assuming people can dodge some fire, that's going to be the easiest one for you. And when you're fighting with the captain himself, you want to make sure that you're kicking the battle cry whenever you can, because it enhances his lieutenant and makes him deal more damage. Then dodge the hurl spear. You'll see it as a thin red line. And then the boss is going to jump at a target with Savage Maul, dealing a bunch of damage to that target. And you can only stop this munch that's happening onto your ally by breaking the shield that the boss then gains. Now, when you're fighting both the captain and his lieutenant, the lieutenant is transferring the damage it takes to the captain, and the lieutenant has way too much HP because of the buff that the captain gives to his lieutenants. So don't expect to actually kill the lieutenant on this encounter. Your goal is to focus the captain, and if you can get free and easy extra cleave onto the ad or the lieutenant, so be it. Baron Braunpyke is the second boss that you fight after you clear the room immediately after the first, and he is also a paladin, so you'll want to watch his character or his buffs for when he has wings, as it's going to enhance his abilities and make them deal more damage. For example, the Hammer of Purity that you have at the start of the encounter, you'll want to be shoved as far to the side as you can. We like going to just like one side of the room and then jumping to the next side, and you kind of bounce back and forth from there. But basically, your tank needs to move very quickly after these hammers drop, and there's more hammers when he has wings up, because he's going to start casting some other spells really quickly, and you want to get out of the way of the hammer radius as they spin around the room. The boss will then summon Sacrificial Pyre, which is a large bubble of light that has a bunch of shining stars, you could say, right above the bubble. And the stars are going to indicate how many soaks are left. And so what this does is when a player walks into it, they get knocked back, they take a soak stack off, which will remove one of the stars, and they take a dot instead. So it's a big AoE hit followed by a dot on that player. I'd really recommend having your tank soak at least 2 stacks, if not 3 or more, if they're feeling very comfortable with it, because the dot damage can be really nasty when the rest of the party also is taking big damage from the boss's Castigator shield. This is kind of like a Divine Toll effect that hits all the players, and when he has wings up, it'll slow him. So if you have a way to remove snare effects or some movement speed bonuses you can use, you'll need to watch when the boss has his wings up, and then when he's going to cast that Castigator shield onto your allies. Big thing is that for DPS and for healers, it's very difficult to consistently be able to help with some of those soaks every single time, and a lot of times it falls to the tank, which makes this encounter an insane tank buster. The amount of magic damage that tanks take is incredibly high compared to other fights in the instance, and they're going to need a lot more healing and potentially some external help when they have full stacks of the Sacrificial Pyre dot and the boss has wings up and they're dealing way more damage to your tank. Make sure you have movement speed of some kind for when the boss is slowing you with a Castigator shield, and make sure you have big healing CDs at the ready when you're soaking the Sacrificial Pyres. Prioress Murrpray is the final boss, and she's going to be casting Inner Fire, which is going to cause her to pulse damage periodically throughout this encounter. This is the ideal area you need to watch out for as a healer to know when you need to do a ton of healing. The boss is also going to be casting Sacred Flame, which is going to target one player and is going to chase them around, leaving void zones behind it. So range, make sure you're near the walls or near the edges as you walk up the stairs so that you can drop these light fields off to the side and be out of people's way. Watch out for when the boss has that Inner Fire pulsing effect on her and is also casting Blinding Light. Now, if you're facing the boss, you're going to get disoriented and take a ton of damage, but even if you turn your back, while you're not going to get disoriented, you will still take a moderate-sized hit, and if you have Inner Fire up on the boss as well, that could be a combo that could bring you down very quickly, and it's an ideal time to use a defensive. The boss is basically going to spam cast Smite on the tank, so keep in mind, have some interrupts at the ready for it. At 50% health, the boss jumps up the stairs, casts a shield on herself, and starts pulsing AoE on your party. What's going to happen is you need to get upstairs as fast as you can. If you want to play safe, this could be a good time to Bloodlust, not only to break the shield faster, which could allow you to skip a set of ads, but also to have some more safety when these resurrected mobs are coming from the front of the church, running up the stairs, and dealing a ton of damage. Now, these mobs are insane because while they can be crowd controlled, and they do naturally bleed out over time, even if you don't damage them. If you are near one of these mobs, even if it's not attacking you, it radiates holy damage, in addition to its melee strikes and the fact that the mob ignores aggro tables. These mobs are all really deadly. Kiting them, CCing them, making sure that you have, I don't know, the tank grabbing everything in together and being the only one in melee to kill them off, whatever you need to do. Be ready for these ads as they can be insanely lethal, and if the boss has her shield up for a long time, it's not only going to be one wave of ads, but it would be two from what we've experienced on PTR. You'll still have to be dealing with the Inner Fire and the Sacred Flame chasing players all over the place, and of course, you'll have to watch out for the Blinding Light, which when the ads are out can be quite deadly. A super important part of Priory is understanding the most lethal enemies. In the general courtyard area, you're going to fight a lot of knights. And what they do is they cast this Disrupting Shout in the courtyard space, which will interrupt any active spellcast you have, and they deal a lot of damage on their own. So keep in mind that you never really want to pull more than one knight if you can help it, unless your team is really doing a good job of stopping their cast as the Disrupting Shout is happening. These guys deal a ton of damage. You might have to deal with two if you're doing a crazy Bloodlust pull at the start or something. Those are the primary forms of unavoidable damage. There's a lot of hunters and like side bleeds that are happening in the early trash, but it's usually the knights that are killing players off with their big AoE, and they have a cousin in the paladins once you entered the church. They are casting what is effectively a divine toll onto your allies. I think it's called Sacred Toll if you look at the paladins cast bar, and that works just like a divine toll, pulse of AoE onto everybody, which means if you have more than two paladins at a time when you're doing any of these pulls in the church, they could be very nasty and kind of combo you to death. There's a lot of volley casts in this dungeon, some fireballs and smites and things like that, but you want to make sure you really prioritize the volleys because they're almost an instantaneous wipe. And as you're running around the church, you're going to find these light spawns, which are incredibly nasty. They're like the squid people at the end of Grim Batol that are channeling big damage into one target. And you could use Feign or Shadow Meld to drop that channeled damage, but it's a ton of focus damage into one target. And when the light spawn hits 25%, they do a martyrdom burst of light, and that effect will kill any player in its radius and heal any enemy inside that radius for like half their health. It's a crazy amount of healing. Can make pulls go like way longer than before. So make sure you're either killing a light spawn near the end or you're kiting these mobs out of their radius. Also, before the end of the church, there are 2 main buffs. They've weakened them a ton, but they are in the courtyard initially in its little bubble, and they're right before you fight the last mini-boss in Baron Braunpyke. There's a nice little bubble of light just to the right of him if you're facing him on the side of the room. So if anybody died, you can refresh that buff for priests and paladins, but it's not that powerful anymore. The Baron, once he's been resurrected, is going to be pulsing AoE damage the entire time that he's alive, which severely limits the pulls you can do with him. We found that just having the casters with him from the beginning, killing those first, and then kind of dragging him along and fighting the risen footmen that explode when they die and kind of piecemeal killing them off was a decent strategy to still be efficient. But if you don't pull any of those mobs from Baron Braunpyke to the boss, when you pull Prioress, she'll just automatically pull those, so you're not actually able to skip as much trash as you might enjoy in this dungeon. Trash count percentage is incredibly high. I will have some press W routes in the description down below. If they're not up right away, they soon will be as the season comes out and as we get all the data we need. If you enjoyed these videos, be sure to like and subscribe, and huge love to our patrons who make all this content possible. If you'd like to join them, check it out in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all next time.